This week, we are in Chongqing, where a historical event in environmental protection happened last 2021 right here at the Yangtze River. The Yangtze River has one of the richest aquatic biodiversity in the world, spanning over 6,000 kilometers. It nurtures thousands of species of fish and underwater marine life since ancient times, including the Chinese paddlefish and the river dolphin. It's a treasure trove of fish DNA that isn't seen in other places. Too many things in our generation are gone forever. Pollution, city development, and people who are fond of eating wild-caught fish. In recent years, some fishermen have infested tools using electricity, explosive, poison, and mesh nets to satisfy demand. They don't just caught the adult fish, but their young as well. That's why some of these Asian species have disappeared in our generation. Hello, Professor Yao.
Hello.
Professor Yao is from a famous university in Chongqing. He's an expert in Yangtze River ecology. Professor Yao Weiji has studied Yangtze fish for almost 30 years, witnessing the changes in the river. Professor, people say the Yangtze is seriously ill. How bad is it?
Since 2003, precious species like the Chinese paddlefish haven't been seen.
No more?
None. Since 2000, the Chinese paddlefish stopped breeding in nature. The high-fin banded shark, a Class II protected species, has also stopped breeding naturally for years. So you have what we call commercial fish. Their numbers keep dropping too. The situation is very, very bad. The river has become virtually fish-free.
Fish thousands of years old have been destroyed in our generation?
Not just a few thousand years. These fish have lived in the Yangtze for up to 10,000 years.
10,000?
Or even more. It's heartbreaking. Watching a living species die off and disappear just like that.
So he and ecologists from various provinces urged the government to launch a 10-year fishing ban in the region. The program comes at a high price. It involves over a dozen provincial-level regions along the Yangtze, over 200,000 fishermen, and the livelihood of all those in the fishing industry. The economic losses will be huge. Yet upon careful consideration, the government decided to go for a decision that will affect generations to come.
Why a 10-year ban? Almost all the fish from birth to maturity usually take 3 years. A 10-year fishing ban will allow these fish to go through 3 generations of reproduction.
Then they can grow back?
Maybe, but if you do nothing, it won't be possible.
On January 1st, 2021, the state government announced the start of a 10-year fishing ban along the Yangtze River. From Qinghai to Shanghai, fishermen in over a dozen provincial-level regions had to surrender their fishing boats and tools and go on shore.
This 10-year fishing moratorium means a huge sacrifice for our fishermen. Other than fishing, they actually had no means of living. Yet our fishermen responded to the state's call and returned to shore.
To make up for the loss, the government set aside over 20 billion yuan as subsidies for their living during the transition and arranged for new jobs after going back to shore. It does take great determination to implement this 10-year ban, but because the wild fish business is very profitable, many would resort to any means to catch them. Hello. Captain Liu is a real crime buster. Captain Liu, so many illegal fishermen are scared at just the mention of your name.
They are indeed afraid of me.
Liu Hong is an ordinary resident in the Chongqing section of the Yangtze River. He owns a small construction company. All his ancestors were fishermen. The whole family lived and worked along the river. He was raised by the Yangtze. He is devastated by the extreme measures used in fishing in recent years. I heard they're using some very extreme tool to catch fish.
They use this secondary battery, boosted to over 20,000 volts.
Over 20,000 volts? So if put into the water...
All the fish will be electrocuted. All the living things, not just fish, at the bottom of the river will be killed. Those lucky enough to escape will be handicapped.
Liu Hong says as fewer fish are left in the river, many people are resorting to these extreme methods. It becomes a vicious cycle. So he took the initiative to form a fishery protection team to match the government's effort in patrolling the river to see if anyone is engaged in illegal fishing. The Jiangjing district, where Liu Hong was born and raised, is home to the Chinese paddlefish and the giant salamander. Today, he's taken us to his beloved home.
Come for a meal with us. My mom is home. Mom, they're from a TV station in Hong Kong.
Hello, I'm Janis Chan. I haven't seen this before.
This is made with sesame from here.
Sesame? Hi, Liu Mama. How old are you?
I am 76.
76? Your son has a great sense of justice, catching those people in illegal fishing.
He's not afraid. He's not afraid of those traders.
I caught her cousin, too.
Wow, even your relatives aren't spared.
My aunt worked in my office. She knows when I am out. That's when she'd bring her friends to catch fish with electricity. One time I pretended I was leaving for Guangxi for work. Then I turned back without telling her and sailed upstream in my boat. A few kilometers upstream, my uncle and a few guys were catching fish on a boat using electricity. I rushed over and they started laughing when they saw me. Weren't you out? I said I specifically came back to catch you guys. You thought I was going away. Then I took them to my office and called the fishery department, and public security came to my office for evidence.
Wow, so do you think your son was doing the right thing?
Yes, the river, we all depend on it. He was committing an offense.
Catch those you should catch.
They deserved it.
Here's my construction company.
You set it up.
Yes, it's mine.
These are all your works.
The past few years, we did a number of projects on ancient buildings. Our fishery protection team works from here too.
By day, he's the boss of a construction company. By night, he's a crime buster everyone fears. These are your brothers.
Yes, they are. Let me introduce you.
Members of this fishery protection team Liu Hong set up have full-time day jobs. At night, they volunteer to guard the Yangtze River.
Introduce yourselves.
Hello, what do you do?
I'm a farmer. I grow fruit, prickly ash, and other crops.
This is our head chef.
A chef?
I work in a hotel. I was a fisherman. Now I follow Captain Liu protecting our fish and the river.
Excellent. Some of them were originally fishermen in the Yangtze region using traditional, lawful means of fishing with nets. They are outraged at the profiteers who resort to electrocution, poisoning, and the like to catch fish. So they joined this fishery protection team to go after the perpetrators.
This strong flashlight is used when collecting evidence at crime scenes. We usually wear this on our shoulders. That one is for infrared night vision.
Where did you get the money for this equipment?
I paid for all this myself.
The captain is putting in the money and effort.
These items don't really cost as much as the boat expenses. There's also the money for fuel. I pay about 700,000 to 800,000 a year for the gear and the fuel.
8 years before the fishing ban, Liu Hong was already paying out of his own pocket to patrol and collect evidence along the river, catching perps and handing them over to the fishery department. Since the fishing ban was officially launched last year, the state started subsidizing the expenses on fuel and sailing equipment when they realized these volunteer organizations could fill the gaps in the fishery departments. They also pay casualty insurance for the team members. Still, it's a voluntary team without pay. The captain and his team set out almost every evening. You're setting off?
Yes, let's go. The paths by the river are not easy.
Each operation is real business you volunteer to. Why this strong attachment to the Yangtze River?
I grew up by the Yangtze. I love the mother river.
You have special feelings for the river.
Yes, we lived here and grew up drinking the water here.
Illegal fishing usually happens at night, so the protection team sets out after work before it gets dark.
The waters we cover stretch over 500 kilometers. We usually sail to Yibin in Sichuan, and we go all the way to Chaotianmen in Chongqing. Every time we sail at night along this 500 kilometers, we come across illegal fishermen. If we stop, the perps will come back. So we must continue our patrol work.
The 10-year fishing ban is in force, so whether you catch fish the traditional way or use harmful means, it's forbidden. Yet many still disregard the law.
It's great that the state is trying to restore the eco-environment of the Urumqi. Fishery administration is spending money on this. The state is buying and putting fingerlings into the river for propagation. Yet the perps still use electrocution to catch and kill the wild fish in the Urumqi. If they're just hunting a small amount of fish, it might still be fine, but they're exterminating the whole eco chain.
I saw in the news those illegal fishermen, they fight back and hit you.
That's right, because we're getting in the way of profit. That time I saw two guys by the riverside. One of them was dropping the fishing net, so we sailed over to stop them. But suddenly 24 people popped up from the forest and surrounded us, some throwing cobblestones at our heads. Some of them snatched our mobiles, and I told them it was illegal. He said, "Who do you think you are? A non-government organization trying to interfere?" Then I said, "Any civilian has the right to stop anyone from breaking the law." Then a guy said, "I don't care, you're cutting my profits." Then I got hit by a cobblestone in the head. My face was covered with blood. I couldn't even open my eyes. I called the police right away.
You're so brave, you have a great sense of justice. Frankly, you didn't have to do it.
But if my own river, this wonderful environment, dies and the ecology disappears, the Urumqi will become meaningless. With no fish, how scary it would be for the Urumqi.
Since the 10-year fishing ban was officially launched last year, wild-caught fish has become even more sought after. Perpetrators operate at night when the fishery department is off duty. Liu Hong's team of volunteers fills the gap during this time. As many of the team members used to be fishermen, they know the river area well.
Because I grew up by the river, I feel a strong attachment to the Urumqi and the fish. There are fishermen among us. They know what kind of fish that can be found each season. Those in the fishery administration or in public security aren't as knowledgeable as we are about the river.
Liu Hong says it's been a tug of war between good and evil. Illegal fishermen use more powerful gear.
Those perps went from boats at 30 horsepower to 90 horsepower to 100 horsepower or 150. They go for speed. During those times, I also gear up. When they change to 50, I'd change mine into 60. They use 60 and I'd go to 90. We just have to go faster than they do.
This evening, we're following Captain Liu on a patrol. Got anything?
Nothing. This is the central area where the water turns back. You can find a lot of fish here. They lower the nets towards the latter part of the night, around 3 o'clock.
3 a.m.?
Yes. There's someone fishing.
Oh yes, over there, hurry up. 2 fishing rods, see?
Stand there.
Careful.
They're gone.
So it's this one, illegal fishing. They saw us and they ran.
Yes, right away.
I'm sure they saw us, so they ran. Look.
See, all these hooks, they can be convicted. Once you go over 7 hooks, you can be convicted.
This one is unbelievable.
There are 16 hooks.
16 hooks on a rod.
This is unbelievable. As soon as a fish touches this, gets close, it'll be stuck.
The whole time, the captain is on the outlook with eyes like laser beams. He keeps checking for anything suspicious on the bank. I find him truly amazing, and his team is full of passion. Today I saw how remarkable they are. They patrol almost every other night for 8 years. Liu Hong and his team have spent over 1,000 nights on the river. All these years, they have helped the government crack over 2,000 cases of brutal illegal fishing and arrested over 1,000 perpetrators. Liu Hong has also become the most hated target of those in illegal fishing. He has even received death threats. Captain Liu, during these 7-8 years, you keep putting in all these money and effort, and those people keep cursing you and seeking revenge. What actually are you doing this for?
Because I've always been like that, I can't stand any injustice. I'm like that by nature. Growing up by the Yangtze River, we've watched how the river has changed. How could we bear to see this illegal fishing going on? The way I am, I can't stand it. When we first started, we thought since our families are okay, we can manage. We're leading a good life already, so we believe we should do some good for our future generation.
It's almost midnight now. We set out at about 6 today. The whole operation has taken over 4 hours. After taking me back to the shore, the captain and his team, you're going to continue with this mission overnight?
Yes.
Very tough. We found 4 of these fishing rods, but we couldn't get the mastermind behind them. Each of these rods carries over a dozen hooks. It's unbelievable. Tough on you.
No, not at all. Mind your step. See you.
See you, be careful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Captain. Godspeed. Since the start of a 10-year fishing ban, over a dozen provincial-level regions, except Chongqing, have set up volunteer fishery protection teams. Residents along the riverside are joining hands to protect the Yangtze River. It has been a year since the ban was implemented. What are the effects?
This place is called Shuitu. It's a very important breeding ground for fish in the Jialing River.
We interviewed Professor Yang Weiji, who specializes in fishery research along the Yangtze River. Today, he's taking us sailing to check on the aquatic life here.
These are members of our team at the university specializing in field investigation.
Hello, so you're here too?
We're conducting surveys on the aquatic life.
So you do surveys?
We film the aquatic life.
They regularly go deep into the river using underwater robots to check. To see how the number of fish has changed since the ban?
And to observe the living environment of the fish.
In fact, the Yangtze area used to have a fishing ban every year for 3 to 4 months. But once the fishing season resumed, all that was achieved during the ban would go to waste. So we have to have a full ban, and banning fish for 10 years. It's been over a year now. How much change has there been, Professor?
After just over a year of banning, firstly, there's an obvious increase in the amount of fish. In some riverbed areas, we can see flocks of water birds.
The water birds too?
They're eating fish in a river because there's fish to eat.
There's fish, so the birds come back.
Yes. The fishing ban has mainly removed fishing activities and their effect on the fish. Yet other than that, activities like the development of hydroelectric power, shipping, ships running along the river, all these things, their effects can't be eliminated in a short time.
As for some precious species of fish, like the finless porpoise, they are endangered, and the situation is still the same. If we say the Yangtze River is sick, the 10-year fishing ban is just one rescue mission for the mother river. To thoroughly restore the eco-environment, we still have a long way to go. The most basic thing is to stop catching and killing fish when they haven't even become adults. Otherwise, this vicious cycle will go on forever.
The commercial fishers, the bigger fish, after a while they'll be gone too. What's a fisherman going to do? They still have to make a living, so they go after the small fish. Some were just this small, about an inch long, just fingerlings, the baby fish. I said, what do you do with those? He said, it's simple. You can just roll it in flour and deep fry it, make crispy fish. I said, but they're all babies. You can eat them all in one go. Don't you know how much you can get from one basket later on? How many beautiful great fishes you can get when they grow up? Those could be nationally protected species. They could be very beautiful, very important species. Yet now you're simply exterminating them. I said, we're civilized people, not primitive. Back then, the primitives would go hunting wild animals for food. Today, aquatic products can be cultivated to meet our needs. Now I think those who show off by eating wild-caught fish have no taste.
Under the ban, more than 200,000 fishermen returned to shore. Some worked in factories and others set up small businesses. Hello, boss.
Please come in.
This is your shop?
Yes.
You were in fishing and now you're running a restaurant.
We used to be fishermen. Now we've returned to shore. To protect the environment, we opened a restaurant here.
Yu Yiji is a fisherman who's returned to shore. Using the government's subsidy for job transition, he opened a small restaurant. He has a stable life. What fish is this?
We have breams here and chimbo fish.
So these are cultured fishes.
Yes.
You don't use wild-caught fish.
Please take a sit.
What a feast! In recent years, people have joined the move to protect the Yangtze. They have greater awareness now. Before, people loved wild-caught fish, but gradually, they've grown used to change. How do you find the fish today? How is it different from before? You like it?
Not much difference.
I think it doesn't matter where the fish is from. It's more important that they're healthy. The flavor is secondary to that. We feel more secure eating fish like this. It's sweeter this way.
Yes, well said.
The eco-environment has improved and the people can feel it. We can see all this, right? Seeing these changes in the river, that it's getting better year after year. The eco-environment has been restored. We get that feeling of achievement. Everyone in the team has this sense of honor, too.
In Dali, there was this environmental storm that caused an uproar across the nation.
All the household rubbish was dumped into Urumqi. Used diapers by babies, even the ladies' pads, everything, everywhere.
At peak times, there were over 3,000 guest rooms here. The sewage, human waste and rubbish had nowhere to go. They just dumped everything into Urumqi.
At the time, people were probably more concerned about the economy, about making money.
Urumqi is a classic example of pollution caused by tourism. Because the environment is so beautiful, they can make a living using nature. Yet during this development, they didn't think things through. They've exhausted nature's goodness, so they had to pay a heavy price.